What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today when we talked about SoFi. Absolutely crazy day. I want to give you an overview of some of the current data points, what's been coming out from the company itself, and given the circumstances, where I see things going from here. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate it. And with that said, let's get right to it. So today it did go down 6.29% based on nothing specific to SoFi. So there was no PR today. There was a couple Form 4s that I do want to explain what they are and why that probably helped SoFi bounce off of the lows, whereas the broader market was just continuing to tank because of good old Powell. So he did have a speech on which he essentially said that he doesn't feel the Feds have done enough to really curb inflation, as crazy as that sounds. So again, the broader market, massive fear right now. And even prior days, SoFi did have a lot of fear, but that was largely because of a lot of insiders selling. And that did occur right here. So the 144s that came out on November 2nd and also the 6th did indicate that I think there was 3 different individuals, one of which was Lauren Webb Stafford, who sold some shares. And I've already covered this in a previous video, but obviously this is not a good image. Luckily enough, you do have Chris and Anthony to come in and save the day. So Christopher Lapointe, who is the CFO and PAO, did buy, and it was transaction code P, meaning they actually purchased using their own physical money. So he bought 14,950 shares at a price of $6.69. That was done today. Very beneficial. So that does bring his grand total to 827,000 shares. And good old Anthony. So I have said this over the last several videos. Technically, Anthony has only ever bought around the $4 to $5 range. I think this might be one of his higher purchases, potentially, and that definitely is a very positive sign. Anthony did buy around 44,000 shares, again, transaction code P, so using their own money, at a price of $6.77, which does bring its grand total to 7.2 million shares of SoFi. So as I've said in the past, a lot of CEOs kind of fall short on many different things, but Anthony hits a home run, especially from, I think, the last 6 earnings, and actually puts his damn money where his mouth is. So good job, Anthony. This literally saved your stock from getting massively plummeted, because essentially from this point, and if you do compare it to other growth stocks, it probably would be down an additional about 3.5% from these levels. So hands down, Anthony and Chris saved the day. But over and above that, the only real thing that came out that wasn't PR related was a new analyst rating. It was from KBW. It did reiterate their hold rating and a price of $7.50. So pretty good stuff when it comes down to that. And beside that, Dan was the last one from Mizuho, $15 price target. So analysts really do like SoFi, and even looking at the latest Morningstar report, it does show, which was updated, I believe, the tail end of last week. So, or maybe mid, but obviously Morningstar report does show the fair market value being around $14.50. So pretty positive stuff when it comes down to that. But let's go over some of the data points, starting off with options activity. So $9.82 million in calls being purchased versus 4.57 million in puts. So a lot of optimism. So this is why I like to look at a lot of the data points to see what it's truly saying. So even though it went down a pretty significant amount today, people are still optimistic as well. If you're looking at the specific calls though for today, which shows all the strike prices, expiry dates, a lot of people are anticipating for it to be above $7, as there was roughly around 23,000 purchased or volume today at that $7 strike price. But looking at the overall open interest, technically, I think the consensus is that it's going to be above $8 by the end of this Friday and $9 by the end of next week. So let me know your thoughts on that. Vice versa, looking at the puts, people are anticipating for it to be sub $6 by the end of next week. So you kind of have that conflicting stuff, but based on the technicals, kind of makes sense. So I'll touch on the technicals in a second, but I'll go over what shorts did today. And as I say, I'll always say this every video, I'm not here to say that SoFi is going to squeeze or is a squeeze play. I'm just using this as a benchmark, but 127.32 thousand shares were increased today. 13.17% of the free float was being short 13.17% of the free float is being shorted, 111.1 million shares overall are being shorted, and cost to borrow average is 0.55%. And you do see that odd sign of manipulation as usual. So the cost to borrow minimum is negative 0.2%, meaning there's a broker out there physically paying people 0.2% to short SoFi. So interesting stuff. And through the interactive broker, short availability does show that there's more than around 10 million shares available to be shorted. So the fact that shorts kind of increased on a red day shows that they feel that's somewhat justified. But then again, if you kind of look at the orientation of that, that was more so at the beginning of the day rather than what obviously came out from Powell and stuff like that. So interesting stuff. But like I said, let's talk on some of the technicals. With it at $6.85, it's kind of sitting on this S1. It temporarily did break below that. Well, actually, in fact, it went down to 657 as a low. So it did kind of stick there. But as it stands, it is trading between this S2 and this S1. So right now, the very strong support is $6.39. I wouldn't really consider it officially broken this S1. So as it stands, $7.65 is going to be the next strong resistance. But again, tomorrow will most likely dictate whether it trades between this S2 and this S1 or kind of bounces back into this S1 to the pivot. So we'll just have to wait and see to see what tomorrow does bring. But the fact that Anthony and Chris were able to buy, that definitely is a very good boost, sentiment boost, of course. Looking at the momentum indicator shows number of retail investors have been getting out today. And then stochastic is currently at 41. So that's kind of neutral. So it's not really overbought, oversold. It's kind of just there. But you do see a little bit more of a negative bearish sentiment starting to form because the red line is above the black. So once again, that's something just to consider. So like I said, just to recap, options activity, very optimistic. The shorts, I wouldn't really consider that bearish, as a little bit more neutral, but the technicals are starting to break down a little bit. So once again, we just have to sit tight. And like I've said, if you do believe in SoFi bigger picture, then take advantage of these discounted prices because time and time again, they do hit a home run on their earnings. And once the market does enter into an expansionary stage, stocks that are like SoFi that have been doing phenomenal operationally, that is where they will go up so much faster than the broader market. But then again, I'm not a financial advisor. You guys always do your own due diligence. Let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. As well, give yourself a shout out. If you have been buying today or sold, what did you do with SoFi over the last little bit? So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up, like I said. And with all that said, though, I really appreciate all of you watching.